Well, there we have it, guys. The World Cup is over. We have found our champions, and it remains as South Africa. They go back-to-back world champions. They will hold on to that trophy for another 4 years. They are the first team to get 4 World Cups under their belt, and they did it all by winning by 1 point. They have won the quarterfinals, the semi-finals, and the finals by 1 point. How incredible. I'm not sure what the odds are to be able to achieve that, but man, they've got to be right up there, right? I actually think somebody put down, I don't remember if it was in the preview video or in the community poll that we did on the channel, somebody put a comment like, "Mark my words, Mad Dragon, South Africa will win this game by exactly 1 point." And I thought that's an incredible claim to make. Bang on. So fair play. I don't remember who that was. I'm awfully sorry. But if that was you, fantastic prediction. What a game this was. Not quite the heights I wanted it to be. I was really hoping we were going to watch a game of rugby that was more in line with like New Zealand, Ireland, and South Africa, France. And we got to see in the quarterfinals where it was just, impeccable rugby. Brilliant to watch. It wasn't quite that. There was a lot of stop-start. There was a hell of a lot of scrums, a hell of a lot of lineouts, and a good chunk of controversial moments to talk about as well, which means I either get to annoy a lot of people or make a lot of people happy with what I have to say about some of those card decisions and what have you. So the game's just finished on my end. Well, technically the game has finished, but then I went on and watched the medal ceremony because, of course, we only get to see this once every 4 years, right? So we're going to have a run through of the game, go over the key highlights. Not that many to talk about in terms of a big game like this. But in terms of my notes, I've got like 4 pages of notes, which I've got to condense down into this one. But we'll have a run through of all those key moments in the game, some questions to ask, and of course give my own opinions on it. Of course, as always, drop down in the comment section your own thoughts on this game, because there's a lot of big moments to go over. So that first half, especially, is 12 points to 6 at half time, and a lot of big deciding moments in that one. New Zealand really took a long time to get into this game. Not what I was expecting. My expectations going into the game was New Zealand to start out strong, probably put a good chunk of points on the board, and then as the game went on, that 7 forwards from the South African bench were going to come on, and South Africa were going to chip away in that second half, and it was going to be whether or not the New Zealand lead would be big enough. It was the opposite. South Africa were the ones getting the points in the first half, and then that second half is whether or not New Zealand were going to be able to clamber back in. But New Zealand took a long time to really get anything going. The weather not helping really. So much rain coming down. There was a lot of inconsistencies with handling errors and under the high ball, not being able to collect that ball and stuff. And they got put under massive pressure very early on. Shannon Frizzell getting a yellow card for landing on the leg of Bongi Mbonambi. What an interesting decision this one was. Now, I know they've been doing a bit more of the focus on these like limb targets and stuff and what they've done. This one for me was, we've seen a card before. I can't remember what game it was. There was a card for a very similar incident, but it was a direct chop at someone's knee, and it was like an external limb and didn't need to happen. This one was a slightly different one because Shannon Frizzell goes in for the clear out. I actually think, having only seen the game literally just now and the replays that we saw, it looked to me like actually as he went in for the clear out, there was a second South African player who actually bumped into and sort of threw him off balance, and he went over and he just sort of grabbed onto to Bongi Mbonambi, and it got sort of classed as a neck roll, but then the referee said it wasn't a neck roll, and then he's fallen over the top of him and he's landed on his leg. They deemed it foul play because the clean out was illegal as well as like a neck roll, even though I'm sure I heard Wayne Barnes say it wasn't a neck roll. And then the landing on the limb, because it was a foul play clean out, meant that landing on the limb was then like extra foul play, and this was a yellow card. This is a really interesting one for me because I feel like if you looked at rucks, across a game, you could find a number of rucks where a player would land on someone's leg, or and not intentionally. I have no issue with that sort of thing being a yellow card if a player eyes up someone at a ruck and just dives at their knee and they're attempting to cause injury. Fine with that. Get some yellow cards in there, and we don't want that in rugby. This one for me, for that Shannon Frizzell first yellow card, I really don't think that was an intentional landing on the leg. I think he maybe didn't land that clean out correct at all, and you may say that should have been a penalty anyway for the neck roll or what have you. I really don't think he targeted the leg in that one. I'm very surprised that was given as a yellow card. There was even talk about upgrading it to a red. I think think that would have been really harsh. I feel like a yellow card was still a bit harsh for me, but hey, I'm not an international ref. I'm sure a lot of people have different opinions down in the comment section. But interesting to note that that's the direction they went for this game. When you consider in the Wales-Argentina game, Nick Tonkin took a shoulder direct to the face, which was off of clearing out one player and went into it. It was head contact. It wasn't even a penalty. This was a clear out and he's fallen over and landed on someone's leg and it was deemed a limb thing. I think there's a couple of things to look into in that one, but I don't want to hark on too much about that one. But Andre Pollard getting that kick over, and Andre Pollard really the man for South Africa in terms of the points today. 100% of the points come from the boot of Pollard. This is why South Africa need him in the team, right? Marnie Libbok across this tournament has not been consistent with the kicking. Andre Pollard today, just every opportunity he was asked to do, kick to the post, absolutely essential, kicking 12 points in that first half and scored all of the points for South Africa because they didn't score anything in that second half. Very, very vital. Andre Pollard having a good game from the boot. South Africa just throwing the kitchen sink of this game. There were so many players just phenomenal physicality in this game, and I think it took New Zealand by surprise. I don't think they were quite ready for how much of an impact they were going to have. That yellow card didn't help them out either, being an extra man down. Pieter-Steph du Toit in this game, phenomenal. Just all game, just did not stop. I heard a stat at one point that he made 27 tackles. I'm sure by the end of it, it might have hit that 30 marker. Just running off the line at high speed, committing tackles, absolutely superb all day. Eben Etzebeth, again, physicality brought. Faf de Klerk was charging off the back of rucks as well to make a nuisance of himself. Cheslin Colby. The physicality and the sort of technique on the defensive side to just swarm their opponent and really cause a lot of issues for New Zealand. They weren't able to get that fast play off the back of ruck. They weren't able to do safe exit clearances. They weren't able to play it out wide because of how fast that South African defence was going off the line. I thought it was very well worked from. There's a lot of South Africa players that deserve some big thumbs up in this game. One of the mega turning points in this game, though, Sam Cane. Red card. Opinions on this one? That's a red card. That's just a red card all day. I don't really know what his decision was in that moment. New Zealand are on the front foot. They were going, well. They were on the attack, probably for one of the first sort of times in the half. It really sort of felt like they were getting little bits and bobs going together. Ball goes a little bit loose. It's picked up by Jesse Creel. Sam Cane sort of on the wrong side, runs round, had ample opportunity to just chop him down at the knees, tackle him in the ribs if you want to. Just stood upright, direct shoulder to the head. As soon as that happened, I said, well, this game's South Africa's, right? That red card it has to come. There's no mitigation there for me that would suddenly have changed that for me. Clear line of sight with force. He wanted to put a big shot on Jesse Creel. Right, it's a game of rugby, World Cup final, put a big shot in and hit him in the head. It's a red card, and I would have said, yeah, I think a red card was coming all day after that. And I did think that was actually going to ruin the game. In all honesty, I thought it would ruin the outcome of this game because I thought with that South Africa would be able to get on the front foot. New Zealand lost a forward for 10 minutes, and then they're going to lose another forward for what, 45 minutes? That's 55 minutes of this game with 14 men. I thought that would be too much of a hurdle for them to overcome. So after we had our first red card ever in a World Cup final, which is a fun stat that sort of popped up for this one, New Zealand did get 3 back right at the end. Richie Mo'unga getting a penalty. Mark Talea actually causing a bit of a nuisance. One of the few players in that first half that was really looking like they could break the South African line, making a real nuisance, getting through, players having to rush onto the ball, and a penalty was given away on that attack that looked like one of the few attacks that was amounting to something. That was a ball thrown into Eben Etzebeth, who was coming back from an offside position. So Richie Mo'unga kicking that one back over brought New Zealand back in within 6 going in at half time. But it's really interesting looking at the stats for this game because in that first half, New Zealand had the possession in that first half, which was kind of wild. The territory was mainly with South Africa, but just so many areas that South Africa were winning. That physicality and the kicking game, South Africa might have actually found a new aerial battle technique. There was something going on in this game as well where South Africa were going for a big box kick or someone would put a big up and under on, and there was a couple of times today where I was watching the South African wingers chase it down and they were getting in the air, but not actually competing for the ball and not looking to make contact with the player, but just getting in the air, just getting in the line of sight of the your opposition getting into the air, and it caused a lot of issues for New Zealand. I think maybe they were waiting for the contestable ball, and wet weather as well, ball spiraling in the air, bit of wind, and you're in the air with them. You're not actually looking to compete, and there were so many balls we saw coming off the back of that kicking strategy, and it forced a knock on, and the South African player just leapt past them and sort of ran round afterwards, and they got a scrum for it. They took over more areas of the game. You have to say that first half was South Africa's to win that one. So 12 points to 6 at half time. The second half though, what a switch up happened here. The opening 5 minutes of the second half, all South Africa. They could have scored 3 tries, is what I picked up from it. They had one that got over the try line but was held up by Jordie Barrett. Arendse, I don't know how he didn't score. The grubber kick coming in, Beauden Barrett watching it, hoping it bounced out for him. Arendse not giving up, went round the outside of him and went for the dot down, lost the ball sort of on the way to the ground as well and got his foot into touch. But man, I thought he'd scored an unbelievable try at that point. And then there was another one, Pieter-Steph du Toit running down the wing, just on the charge out of nowhere. And Will Jordan luckily managing to barrel him into touch because he had Colby alongside him. I thought 3 tries potentially could have been scored for South Africa in that opening 5 minutes, but it did take a turn in the 45th minute. Siya Kolisi getting his yellow card. Now, I can imagine some people, if you're maybe a bit newer to rugby or you're not, quite versed on the rules, you might think, well, Sam Cane head-on-head was a red card. Siya Kolisi got a yellow card for this one. A yellow card for me is the right call on this one. It looked to me more like actually the shoulder hit the shoulder first, and then his head made contact with Ardie Savea afterwards. So this was a yellow card. Went to the bunker review, and they said not upgraded to a red card. And I agreed with that one. I thought that was a good call for me. I think it is head-on-head. You have still hit him high, but yeah, I wouldn't have wanted to have seen more than a yellow card for that one. It did feel like the yellow card rocked South Africa a little bit, though, because that 45-minute period up to about just shy of 60 minutes, it just became all New Zealand. It felt like that momentum shift. Suddenly it's 14-on-14, and they've both lost a forward. That 7-1 split's not going to make as much of an impact at this point because they still haven't started making those substitutions yet. And New Zealand went on the charge, and we got to see some fantastic play from New Zealand. It was probably the best set of attack from New Zealand of the entire game when you sort of look back at it. There was a wonderful try scored out of nowhere by Aaron Smith that did get disallowed, and it's one of those that as like a rugby fan sometimes you feel like you just kind of want to see tries stand, because a wonderful effort by Richie Mo'unga to just go out of nowhere, running on the outside of Damien Dialende, passing the ball back inside, and Aaron Smith to finish that one over. And Aaron Smith's one of the many players in this game this evening. It's their last game for their respective teams and stuff, and you kind of wanted him to score that one, but we did go back and have a look and saw that there was an earlier knock-on caused by a penalty, which Wayne Barnes, some eagle-eyed spotting to watch the Evan Smith actually knocked the ball out of the hands to cause the knock-on in that one. But yeah, that try disallowed. We got on though to one try, the only try of the game. Beauden Barrett at 58 minutes. So this was shortly after that try was disallowed. New Zealand kept going over the course of this, getting a few more penalties, kept going to corner, not working for them because the South African defensive maul and defensive line-out very, very good today. But the Beauden Barrett try going out, Mark Telea again, getting through that defensive line, making a couple of breaks on the tackles, getting a bounce pass out to Beauden Barrett to score in the corner. We did go and review this one, and the referee said it went backwards out of his hands and then bounced forwards afterwards. For me personally, I disagreed with that one. It looked to me, I only have my one camera angle that I get to see on the TV. It looked to me like it went forwards pretty much the whole way. I'm very surprised that try stood, but Richie Mo'unga missing that conversion kick very hard right up against the touchline meant that New Zealand fell 1 point short, and there's a lot to talk about the points missed in this game. Richie Mo'unga missing that conversion, there's 2 points missed for New Zealand. Jordie Barrett missed a penalty a little bit later on in this game as well. There's another 3 points lost for New Zealand. Either of those go over, they win this game. Over the course of that sort of 10-minute period with the Kolisi yellow card as well, I think there was 3 or 4. I tried to make the best note I could for myself. I think there was 3. There may well have been 4 penalties in very kickable positions, and 100% of the time they decided to kick to corner, and they were defended brilliantly by South Africa and not managing to take any of those points. It's one of those games where you want to try and land those big scores. You wanted to land the try. They were 6 points down, so you understood why they wanted the try, but maybe chipping away at the threes is maybe the way to go. It's what Andre Pallard did, and they've come away winning that game. And then the final big talking point from this game, then Cheslin Colby, after having a really solid performance all day long, even after picking up some big injuries in this game, getting his yellow card for a deliberate knock-on. Now, if you're a New Zealand fan, you might be thinking about just how cynical this is, because that is a deliberate knock-on. I fully agree it's a deliberate knock-on. There's a man overlap. That's why there's a yellow card. Yellow card given to Cheslin Colby, and he couldn't even look at the rest of the game after it's a thing he had to do in order to stop the try-scoring opportunity. But he knew that he may have caused, South Africa to end up losing this game. But it's one of the talking points about rugby, I think, when you have these interesting situations where someone has committed a completely illegal, foul. He's got yellow carded. That's your punishment for it. But it's the impact on the game. He got yellow carded. South Africa went on to win that game. But if he doesn't make that interaction, doesn't slap that ball out of the air and get his yellow card, could New Zealand have gone on and scored, have won the game? It's like a sort of deliberate foul that actually ends up saving your team. There's probably a lot to talk about in terms of what you think of is right and wrong in rugby. He's still got his punishment. He's still got the yellow card. New Zealand still had 7 minutes to go on and win this game with that yellow card. But man, some big talking points I'm sure will come around that Colby decision. And eventually South Africa managed to hold it out. I did think they made a terrible decision with Jesse Creel kicking the ball back. About a minute before the end of the game, the ball eventually dropped though by New Zealand on the attack. We went through that scrummaging play. As soon as the scrum came in, you already saw tears in players' eyes. They knew that scrum is never ever going to happen before that clock goes red. It was just never going to come, and eventually the ball got lost in a maul, which I'm sure is not what New Zealand were trying to accomplish there. And South Africa sealing out this game. Now, across this, I don't feel like I've spoken enough about the positives that South Africa take away from this game. There were some players that just stepped up today, like I said, Pieter-Steph du Toit, who got man of the match. And deserve it. He played out of his skin today. Faf de Klerk, from a couple of games where I've said Ryan Ack for me has actually been more impressive. Faf de Klerk stepped up today and had another brilliant game. Sia Khaleesi, just at times when you needed him to, I think was leading from the front. Andre Pallard in terms of the kicking doing well. Eben Etzebeth in the line out. What an irritating player to play against in the lineup. He is so good. Just getting involved in that middle pod every time. Only took a couple of steals today, but just at the right time and just putting doubt in the New Zealand hooker's mind. They've certainly got to try and adapt on the fly. We saw after 2 or 3 steals by Eben Etzebeth, suddenly New Zealand are throwing long. They're throwing over the top. They're having to throw short. What an annoyance to a New Zealand set piece when you've got someone like Eben Etzebeth. He is a real weapon. For South Africa today, and he hasn't got a lot of praise from what I saw on the commentary team, because I think he probably deserves a bit more praise than he got. In terms of some takeaways from the game, then, so South Africa have won all of their knockout games by 1 point. That's wild to think about. They've become the first time 4-time world champion. We're getting their back-to-back wins at the World Cup. But I'm sure there'll probably be a bit more talking points around this 7-1 split, right? They did the 7-1 split before, and there was a lot of critics that went on about is it cheating? Is it ruining the sport? Blah, 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 blah. But I think, again, for me today, I'm not sure that 7-1 split made the impact South Africa wanted. They weren't looking, dominant at the scrum. The scrums are looking pretty stable across the board, even with New Zealand down a forward for that game, Geordie Barrett having to fill in the scrum. It didn't really feel like those forwards made an enormous impact. The line-out situation struggled for them because they lost Mbonambi so early on, and Dion Forey in his throwing today not quite on point. Luckily for South Africa, though, they didn't have as many line-outs, anywhere near as many line-outs as New Zealand. But I'm not really sure that 7-1 split made as much impact as you would wanted to see. I think that New Zealand did remarkably well considering the circumstances, right? A red card in a World Cup final, as well as a yellow card. I think they did incredibly well to get this game within 1 point. And, if you're not missing kicks, they could have gone on to win it. South Africa looked for drop goals. We had 4 attempts at drop goals, no one getting one over. But man, I mean, how tense this game must have been for some of you guys being New Zealand and South African supporters. I know we have both on the channel in terms of the subscribers, but what an amazing final game. So much to talk about. This video has rambled on for ages. I'm sure there's going to be some massive talking points down in the comment section, especially about some of the officiating decisions, because my god, there's What a lot of different areas to go over. But commiserations to New Zealand and congratulations to South Africa on taking this game. I know we have a lot of very passionate Springbok supporters on the channel. I can only imagine what a nail-biting end to a game that was, and what the celebrations are currently going on over in South Africa. But I hope you've all enjoyed this one today, guys. I hope you've all enjoyed the coverage on the channel across the Rugby World Cup. I am knackered. I've been doing endless videos. I am planning on doing a stream. I'm thinking next Wednesday. I'll put one up on the community tab anyway about when I'm thinking of doing one to sort of go over the the end of the World Cup. We'll get you guys involved in the chat. We'll talk about the World Cup. We'll play some of the World Cup games on Rugby 22, and as well, one video that I'm really looking forward to filming is going to be the predictions versus reality of what happened, because of course I did all my World Cup predictions before the tournament started. I want to know how many I got correct across the pool stages, the quarterfinals, if I got any of them correct, and then of course going on towards this final and picking the winner. So I'm really looking forward to that one. If you want to see that video as soon as that one goes up, make sure you hit the old subscribe button to know when all the latest videos go up. I'll see you all next time, guys. Bye bye.